to something strange. Come with us and you will see this our town of Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Peeps podcast and happy Halloween. That was really bad.
But it is Halloween for everybody.
For some people.
Not everybody.
For some of you, maybe Halloween was yesterday because you listened to the podcast late.
That's true.
Or Halloween was a week ago.
Or it was like last year because, hey, if you're in 2022.
Sorry, Josh, what were you going to say?
Hello.
No, I was saying, or it's tomorrow, depending on if you're celebrating Halloween a day early.
Depends on where you live.
Yeah, if you're celebrating on Sunday or on Saturday.
Yep. So
it's a big debate right now.
Or if you're listening to this next year, just to be nostalgic, then happy Halloween again. I don't know.
That's right.
Either way, welcome to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. Today, it's a special episode. If you are listening to this as we get released, it's actually a little bit earlier than our normal release date.
That's right.
But we wanted to bring it to you because it would be obsolete if we released it after Halloween. Anyway, so that being said, let's go around the room. Who we got with us? First of all, I'm Mike. I'm the loud and annoying one. To my left is the lovely
Alisa.
Alisa decided to join us this time.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome back.
Welcome
Thanks.
back. How was your trip to Cancun?
So it was such a dream.
Such a dream she doesn't even remember going.
To her left, the wizard
Of Oz, Josh.
Josh, still sheetless,
Still sheetless.
and
Jamie.
the lovely Jamie
And Terry.
and Terry. She's my wife. I always say that, and I just figure you guys just don't know that, but she's my wife. She puts up with me. Why? We'll never know. Well, as you might have guessed from the music, if the music didn't get cut out by the wizard, today we're going to talk about Halloween, which is pretty cool.
Since it's the day before Halloween.
Yeah, it's ironic. So there's so much to talk about with Halloween. Do we have any stuff to talk about first before we talk about Halloween?
No.
No!
Just make sure you eat lots of candy and have a good time.
Or if you can't eat candy, eat lots of other things. Like cheese. Don't eat too much cheese, it'll plug you up.
Bacon.
Bacon!
Yes.
We were talking about bacon cheeseburgers hands earlier. Yeah. Bacon cheeseburger hand pies.
Or to take it to the next level, bacon wrapped cheese.
Or just tacos. I'm like stuffed right now, but yet we're still talking about food. That's what a glutton I am.
Jamie made a huge spread of like Halloween themed stuff for us to eat. It was
Oh my
delicious.
gosh.
So
we will
good.
post
You
pictures.
should post pictures on the...
We will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Go to our social media. We'll tell you where at the end of the show. So you got to listen all the way to the end of the show to find out where you can see the
where you can
pictures.
find us.
Yes. All right. Well, let's just jump in. So anyway, Halloween, if you've been living under a rock, is an annual holiday celebrated each year on October 31st. This year it's on Sunday the 31st. Ironically, 31st. And although here in Utah, with Sunday being the Sabbath, and with the culture here, most activity is going to be happening on Saturday night. So
Utah's not the only state doing this.
No, it's not. the
Although a
only
lot of
state.
people think we're the only ones that do.
Everybody thinks that the Mormons are backwards. Yeah, maybe we are a little bit, but we like it. So you don't like it? Go somewhere else.
Stop moving to Utah.
Coming to Utah. I'm trying to change things. I like it.
Go to Texas.
I'll go back to California. Anyway, so we wanted to talk about Halloween. We want to talk about the history of Halloween, a lot of the fun things with it, and a lot of the similarities of the way it's celebrated throughout different cultures. There's lots of different festivals. You know, Josh is going to talk about Dia de los Muertos.
Yep.
You know, which is obviously Scottish. And then,
100%. That was very good Celtic. That was a very good Celtic grammar of your
yeah.
Gaelic.
And then Jamie's going to talk about the Canadian versions of Halloween.
Eh?
That's how they do it in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan. Oh, teasers. We watched Grown Ups earlier today. You can't flip past the channels and just go past that one. We just get sucked in. All right, so do you want me just to jump in with that?
Yeah, let's get going.
All right. So Halloween originated in the ancient Celtic festival of now, if you look at it,
Samhain.
it looks like Samhain. That is not how it is pronounced. It's actually pronounced Samhain. And it's when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. Now, side note here, that's not what we would want to do. We don't want to ward off ghosts. Our group, we're like, where are the ghosts?
Bring it
You
on.
know, we go in, it's like, bring it on, kids. Raise your hand if you're a ghost. All right, I want to talk to you. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. And soon All Saints' Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. And then the evening before was known as All Hallows Eve, and then later changed to Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved into day of activities, trick-or-treatings, carving lanterns. We're talking about all this fun stuff. So, but yeah, it goes back to Samhain, okay? Celts lived about 2,000 years ago in the area we now know as Ireland, United Kingdom, Northern France, and they celebrated their new year on November 1st. You know, it marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter. So if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you know, like all through the month of October, they're like, winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Right? And so in the wintertime, you think about it, everything dies, right? All the life on the trees goes away. It becomes cold. It's hard to live. People actually died a lot more in the wintertime.
That's part of the reason why the colors are like black and orange for Halloween, because black equals death, and then orange for like the autumn harvest season colors.
Correct.
Interesting.
You are correct.
And
yes.
and it wasn't uncommon for ancient civilizations to celebrate the seasons and the changing of the seasons.
Yeah.
So it's very common for them to have a festival at harvest time. They're not the Celts weren't the only ones to do that.
No, they weren't at all. And we're going to talk about that. There's actually several. And it's what's funny about it is just how all these different cultures believed in so much of the same stuff, just called it different stuff, and then slightly different traditions. Now, the Celts believed with Samhain that the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. And on the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain when it was believed that those ghosts could actually, the ghosts of those who were dead could return to the earth. Okay. Mm-hmm. In Ghostbusters, they actually talk about this thinning of the veil, and it actually goes all through the month of October, and then it culminates a couple of days after Halloween on November 3rd, when Gozer shows up, if you follow the timeline on the movie. Bet you didn't know that, right?
I watched Ghostbusters.
You've seen that one? we tease Josh about all the shows he's not seen.
I've seen that one. I mean, come on. I got the two dogs right there.
Well,
The one of like 5 movies you've seen.
Yes.
You know, if you could see our studio here, Josh has a very fun,
And we just gave him
display of
Ghostbuster
Ghostbuster
pins.
stuff. Ghostbuster pins, yeah.
Yeah.
You name it, it's all here. It's cool.
We've
Oh,
decked
cute.
out the
Not to-
studio and a lot of Ghostbuster stuff.
Not to mention the demon dogs. You'll find
Terror
those on the
dogs.
the
Yeah.
terror dogs. You'll find those on those pictures of those on the
Yeah, I
website.
did post
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, we posted the video.
So I still tease Josh about not seeing all the movies.
That's probably fair, though, because there's a lot of movies I haven't seen.
I'm about teasing people. I'm a bully. But anyway, yes. So November 3rd is when Gozer shows up, and so a lot of people don't know or don't understand that the whole Ghostbusters timeline runs through September through that first weekend of November when it all just kind of hits the fan. So, in addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, the Celts thought that the presence of the otherworldly spirits made it a lot easier for the Druids or Celtic priests to make predictions about the future. So they got excited because these ghosts are here, and now the priests can make all these predictions. And they were always hoping for good predictions, for a bountiful new year and whatnot. But for people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, which, nature's always doing weird things. I mean, look at it now.
Yep.
But these prophecies were an important source of comfort, especially during a long, dark winter. If you don't have any hope coming at the end of the winter, it's miserable. So to commemorate the event, the Druids built these huge sacred bonfires, and the people gathered to burn the crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities, to their gods. And during the celebration, the Celts actually wore costumes, typically consisting of like animal heads and skins. And I mean, then later, they were, getting plastic ones that look like the Lone Ranger and Rainbow Bright. But they would
Care Bears.
Yeah. So that was
and the Celts.
you
were the
had
ones
no
doing
idea
this?
that those were all Celtic. Yeah.
I did not know that Care Bears was Celtic.
Totally. They actually got it from the Picts.
There was Lucky Bear that had the 4-leaf clover on him. Come
Yeah,
on, he was
and-
green.
And the Smurf that wore the kilt. You know, it was
Yeah, what else do you want?
Yeah. Jeez.
The grouchy one.
Yes. But they would all wear these animal heads and these skins, and they attempted to tell each other's fortunes. Apparently, everybody was a medium that day. When the celebration was over, then they relit their hearth fires, which were in their homes, which they'd extinguished earlier for that evening, and they relit those fires in their homes from those sacred bonfires to help protect them during the coming winter. So it was kind of a sacred fire. Don't let the fire go out, because if it goes out, then you're kind of hosed. So that's kind of Samhain in a big nutshell. We could go on for just a whole episode just on Samhain. But as we mentioned, there's so many different other cultures. Like, let's talk about the Romans, for example. In 43 AD...
Well, we just jumped a huge timeline.
Did we?
Yeah, well...
Well, yeah, Celts were like 2,000 years ago, and then like 43 AD.
Which is how long ago?
Shush.
2,000 years ago.
Shush you.
Hey, we missed the fun fact in between.
Yeah, what's the fun fact?
Did you know 1/4 of all candy sold annually in the U.S. is purchased for Halloween?
We'll get there.
I believe it, though.
I'm just throwing it in there.
There's
as a
where we
fun
jumped
fact,
to
'cause
that.
it's-
Yeah. But also, here's a disgusting fun fact about candy sold for Halloween. You know how we get the candy that comes out right away, right before Halloween, like right before the October season starts?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
probably last year's candy.
That's
isn't
last
it?
year's candy. Candy is
I
good for
believe that.
2 years. And so what they'll do is the candy that they don't sell, they put back in stores and they bring out in the early part of the year.
See, and some of them started shying away from making Halloween themed candy because of that purpose, because they either discount it or they save it.
Yep.
So they started doing it more in like fall colors, so they can you sell that same candy all the way through Thanksgiving.
Ah, sneaky.
Sneaky.
Okay.
Fun facts on candy.
That's right.
So let's go back in time. So back in 43 AD, the Roman Empire had conquered a majority of the Celtic territory, like the northern France and all that. England, what's now England. You will. I do want to note, being the Scot, in the room here, that they got to a certain point and they said, "Nah, Rome's good," because they couldn't conquer the Picts. Those are my ancestors. Thank you. You're welcome. Anyway,
How much of Scottish are you?
direct descendant of Macbeth.
Yes, but that doesn't say how much you are now.
Percentage.
I'm really
Oh, I
scared to
don't
do
know.
one of those DNA tests.
I'm 40%.
If it doesn't come back
Scottish.
as Scottish, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Come to find out, I'm actually Mexican.
You've seen the commercial where the guy thought he was like German, then he found out he was actually Scottish, and so he gave up his lederhosens and bought a kilt.
Yeah. No, yeah, following my paternal line, it goes all the way back into the Picts.
Cool.
And so, but I'm not like pure Scot. I mean, come on. Nobody's pure anything anymore.
I know.
Pure mutt.
We're
Yep.
all mixed breeds.
That's right. But anyway, so let's see, in the course of 400 years that they ruled the Celtic lands, the two festivals of Roman origin that they had were combined with traditional Celtic Samhain. Okay. So anyway, so there's a couple of different festivals the Romans had. The first one was called Feralia, and it was actually on February 21st. And it commemorated the dead, the passing of their dead ancestors. This is what the Romans believe, right? Romans were instructed to bring offerings to the tombs of their dead ancestors, which consisted of at least an arrangement of wreaths and a sprinkling of grain and a bit of salt, bread soaked in wine, and violets scattered all about. Additional offerings were permitted, but usually the dead were appeased by just those things that I mentioned there. There's a writer named Ovid who tells of a time when Romans, in the midst of a war, neglected Feralia, which prompted the spirits of the departed to rise from their graves in anger, howling and roaming the streets. And after this event, the tribute to the tombs were then made, and all the ghosts went back to bed, and everything was fine. So, if you're gonna celebrate Feralia, make sure that you are on time and bring the gifts that they want, right? The second day that the Roman holiday that falls in similitude of these is called Pomona. And the Roman goddess, she was the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. She was associated with abundance, harvest, and fruit, especially apples and nuts. No jokes about nuts out of you, Terry. Her husband was the god.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Her husband was the god Vertumnus, and he was associated with this with the season of the change of associated with the change of the seasons. So between those two, you had the harvest queen and then the guy who changes the seasons. And yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say no, because her symbol was the apple. It's rumored that that's the origin of bobbing for apples on Halloween.
Some of that, yeah. There's also a Pomona breed of apple, I believe. The festival of Pomona was held around November 1st, and it's likely that during the festival, the Romans thanked the gods of water and fire for not destroying their crops and their offering, and then gave offerings of nuts and apples. It's been suggested that due to centuries of Romans and Celts living side by side in the areas of that are now England, Wales, and France, the aspects of the festival of Pomona kind of influenced a lot of the Celtic Samhain celebrations and led to the formation of the modern Halloween. But there's actually more. But it does have that in my notes there. It does say many Halloween fortune-telling traditions involve nuts and apples.
I have one.
You have nuts?
No.
She has apples.
I have
You
apples.
You have a nut? How you like them apples?
How you like them apples?
But apple cider's strongly associated with Halloween in North America, and then apple bobbing remains
But what do you
popular.
have, Elisa?
All right, Elisa,
I have a game
tell me about your nuts.
on bobbing for apples.
Her apples.
Okay, so a popular game or fortune-telling game on All Hallows Eve would be bobbing for apples. The apples would be selected to represent all of women's suitors. And the guys, or the apples, she ended up biting into would supposedly represent her future husband. In fact, Halloween previously posed a huge matchmaking opportunity for young women in the 19th century.
Yep.
But hold on a sec. So there's a barrel full of apples. The gal sticks her face in there and grabs one out, and that's supposed to represent a single suitor.
Yes.
But how do you know which one?
So if it's a small, tiny apple.
That was a cat. That was Gizmo.
That was Gizmo. I don't know. Was her name written on the apple?
I don't think so, because then that means you'd have to write all of the
How do
town's
you
eligible
match-
bachelors in the.
I don't know.
And it's supposed to tell their future.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. How do you know? Who goes to who?
Would you like to know?
Do you know?
Tell away.
I do.
Tell
you guys
away.
have no idea what notes I have.
Well, tell us.
Yes,
Mr.
we
Mike.
will. I'll get to it later. when
I'm
we actually
stealing
talk
everybody
about-
else's notes.
When
So
we talk about more modern things. I'm going through history here. Come on. All right, we'll get to that. I will tell you about bobbing for apples and fortune telling and the magical world of dating.
we are ready for it.
Okay.
Teach us, Mr. Mike.
But the third festival, Roman festival, was called Lemuria. It was on May 13th, and it was a feast where the Romans performed rites to exorcise the malevolent and fearful ghosts of the dead from their homes. So this is a feast where they actually are trying to get rid of all the spirits. The unwholesome specters of the restless dead, or they call them lemures, or larvae, they were given offerings of beans. In those days, Vestals, which were like virgins, would actually prepare a salsa made out of the beans, some salted flour cakes made out of the first ears of wheat season. I'm like boring you guys.
That sounds
No.
terrible.
No,
just
just
salted
listening.
flour cakes.
Yeah.
And beans. You basically just.
Do you want to know how they did it?
Yes.
Okay, so they basically, at this festival, they would appease or expel these spirits by walking barefoot and throwing black beans over the shoulder at night.
What?
And it was the head of the household that was responsible for getting up at midnight and walking around the house with bare feet, throwing out the black beans, and repeating the incantation, "I send these, with these beans, I redeem me and mine." 9 times. 9 times.
That's a lot of swooping up.
Nine.
I'm hearing
times?
I'm hearing Ed Rooney going, 9
9
times.
times.
The household would then clash bronze pots while repeating, "Ghosts of my fathers and ancestors be gone." 9 times. Which is just exactly how we do it when we do house cleansings today. We throw beans around barefoot, and then we walk around
Backwards.
banging pots and telling them to go away.
Can they be canned beans?
9 times.
just throw them in the can.
Those
as
wet
long as,
canned
as long
beans?
If we dent your wall, we're not held responsible for fixing it.
as long as they're black beans, it doesn't matter
Got lots of
whether they're canned or solid. I was
Cooked.
whatever.
Can they be digested?
Ew.
Aw.
Ew.
Now that's how you expel the living.
That's called crop dusting, and then you just go around.
So that's how they did it in the old days. Okay, so they have 3 different festivals, and then you get the Celts with their Samhain. Now there's coming into a little bit more recent times, a lot more modern times. On May 13th of 609 AD.
Ooh, getting up
that's
there.
modern times.
Yeah, we're getting.
Yeah.
Wow.
But like that was yesterday.
Yeah, right. I remember this when I was a kid. I saw this on TV. Pope Boniface IV, or maybe it's Bonifaci, I don't know. The fourth dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic feast of All Martyrs' Day was established in the Western Church. And then Pope Gregory III later expanded the festival to include All Saints as well as All Martyrs, and moved the observance from May 13th to November 1st. So All Souls Day was actually celebrated similarly to Samhain, with big bonfires, parades, dressing up in costumes as saints, as angels, and of devils. The All Saints Day celebration was also called All Hallows or All Hallowmas, and then All Hallowmesse, and anyway, it all became All Halloween, and yeah. So you guys want to come to a little bit more, let's go modern. Let's go to 15. No, just kidding. Let's go.
Well, okay. So at the end of the Samhain, you were saying how they were saying that the veil was very thin between death and
Correct.
life, right? Which
Yep.
is kind of what Josh has for Day of the Dead, right?
Right.
Yep. Let's talk about that one.
Whoa, yeah. Let's talk about that one.
Let's talk about love.
So, Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, it's a 2-day festival. It starts November 1st, which would be All Saints Day.
Samhain.
While traditionally celebrated in Latin cultures, it's increasingly becoming more popular in the U.S.
Oh, Coco really helped that.
It sure
it
did.
That was such a
Long,
cute movie.
yeah.
Such a good movie.
I haven't seen
this
it.
You haven't seen Coco?
We watched the first
Oh,
2 minutes.
Do I need to let you guys borrow it?
No, we can get it on Disney+.
Okay.
Yeah, Disney Plus.
Dia de los Muertos celebrates the lives of the deceased with food, drink, parties, and activities the dead enjoyed in life. It recognizes death as a natural part of the human experience, a continuum with birth, childhood, and growing up to become a contributing member of the community. The roots of the Day of the Dead go back some 3,000 years to rituals honoring the dead in the pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The Aztecs and other Nahua people living in what is now Mexico held a cyclical view of the universe and saw death as an integral, ever-present part of life. So upon dying, a person was believed to travel to the land of the dead. Only after getting through 9
times.
9 challenging levels, a journey of several years, could the person's soul finally reach Mictlan, the final resting place.
Wait, how many lives do cats have?
9.
9.
9.
There's something special about 9s.
Yeah,
You just
I'm-
flip them upside down. They're 6s. It's fine.
Yeah, you know what? You read my mind. That's exactly what I. Yeah.
So never mind.
So in Nahua rituals honoring the dead, traditionally held in August, family members provided food, water, and tools to aid the deceased in this difficult journey. This inspired the contemporary Day of the Dead practice, in which people leave food or other offerings on the loved one's graves or set them out on makeshift altars called ofrendas. really bad with Spanish, in their homes. So on the Day of the Dead, it's believed that the border between the spirit world and the real world dissolve. So this kind of follows the same piece, right? Because we're talking about a 2-day festival, November 1st and November 2nd, as the veil is considered to be the thinnest.
Yeah.
Um,
So, like, this is ghost hunting season right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
During this brief period, the souls of the dead awaken and return to the living world to feast, drink, dance, and play music with their loved ones. In turn, the living family members treat the deceased as honored guests in their celebrations and leave the deceased favorite foods and other offerings at the grave sites or ofrendas built in their homes. So, and the ofrendas can be decorated with candles, bright marigolds, and rock combs alongside food like stacks of tortillas and fruit.
And you'll see this. It's like those little shrines that people put up in their house. It's just like in the corner. You know,
They
all the
got framed
candles.
pictures of their dead ones around in
Yeah.
there and everything.
Just so cool.
It's cool. It's way cool.
Yeah, and what I think is awesome about the celebration in itself is that it's really talking about celebrating your heritage, just celebrating the family members that have passed on before us, and just kind of giving a solid remembrance to them.
Yeah.
You know, which is actually kind of enlightening and like comforting.
So I like that we can learn from our ancestors and looked back to them because they lived so much and they did so much so that we could be here. It's like my ancestors that came here so that I could, be blessed to live the life I have. And so I think it's only fitting to honor them. We're going to start doing this at home, babe.
Okay.
Clear off the piano. We're making a shrine.
We'll just do it in the China hut.
And we'll just draw pictures for all the people we don't have photos of. It's gonna be
A
awesome.
bunch of stick figures hanging up in there.
Get out the crayons.
And then we'll light them on fire on All Saints Day.
Whoa.
Just kidding. Whoa. Well, we gotta have a bonfire.
Not in your house.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just teasing. Sorry, Mary. So that's the Dia de los Muertos, and like we said, it's pretty interesting just how it's there's a lot of similarities
A lot of similarities.
to the other cultures. So let's fast forward. How about Halloween comes to America? The celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant belief system there. But if you moved further south, it was a lot more common down in Maryland and the southern colonies. They tended to be a little bit more
Catholic?
open-minded, probably Catholic, as the beliefs and customs of the different European ethnic groups and the American Indians meshed. A distinctly American version of Halloween began to emerge, different from all those other countries.
Well, part of it was because some of the Irish and the Scottish came here during the potato famine, which brought some of those traditions to America, which started some of the Halloween stuff here.
Right.
Yep.
I had a coworker once that tried to tell me that the Native Americans were the ones who influenced the Scottish to wear kilts, and I was like, "You're
No.
not right."
That's because,
But yeah. Anyway, but no. So the first celebrations that they had as this kind of meshed culture, they included play parties, which were public events held to celebrate the harvest. The neighbors would share stories about the dead. They would tell each other's fortunes. They would dance. They would sing.
That sounds so fun.
Right?
Right?
Well, we're going to do that in a couple weeks anyway, right? Or tomorrow, because it's going to be Halloween tomorrow. Colonial Halloween activities also featured a telling of ghost stories and mischief making of all kinds. But by the middle of the 19th century, so this is back in the 1800s now, the annual autumn festivities were common, but Halloween was not yet celebrated everywhere in the country. It was still evil and dark. But in the second half of the 19th century, so we're talking late 1800s, America was flooded with new immigrants. Like Terry said, the potato famines, the Scots, there was a mass migration to the Americas. And with these immigrants, especially the Irish, fleeing the potato famine, that helped to popularize Halloween celebrations that we have now today. So stuff like trick-or-treating.
So the custom of trick-or-treating is thought to have Irish origins, possibly from the practice going door to door to collect money and cake, or other customs begging for soul cakes or offerings for one's dead relatives. Failure to supply a treat would result in a practical joke.
Yeah, it was going souling because they were going for soul cakes.
What is a soul cake?
So soul cakes were little. They were little flour cakes, but they would actually put like little raisins in them.
Like a biscuit.
Yeah, like a biscuit. It's like a cookie. You know, in England, they call biscuits cookies. Yeah, it's essentially, think of it like going around for like little puffy cookies, and the children would go around. They'd go door to door, and they would knock on the door and like, we'd like to honor the souls of your dead.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some cookies, and we'll pray for them. And if you didn't give them cookies, then I sure hope you didn't have any yard decorations out, because they're going to trash your yard.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is like some of the tricks that they would play, like you would think that was something like associated today, but like they include like tipping over outhouses, opening farmers' gates, egging houses.
Yeah, they like let all their animals out of the gates.
So like, I thought egging was more of a modern day
Oh no.
thing, but we're talking 1800s, egging houses,
Mm-hmm.
and then tipping over outhouses, which is just gross.
And it's not like you have hoses to like squirt that stuff off.
No.
You know?
No, back then you didn't.
Oh.
Can't hose down.
No, you just got it. Never mind.
Yeah.
Almost went somewhere else.
Just walk it off.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically, especially around the Halloween time, or All Saints Day, or All Souls Day, just get your soul cakes all lined up. Make sure you don't run out of cookies, and appease the teenagers.
Could you imagine if you gave a raisin cookie to kids today?
Ew.
They would look at you and they would egg your house
My
anyway.
gosh, just giving them a box of like raisins.
I used to get those, and I used to eat them.
I used to love the raisins,
Yeah.
but
No, I traded those.
No.
I was like, okay, I'll give you my raisins for chocolate.
anything. I
Anything
take
else.
anything over raisins.
what
Laffy
about
Taffies.
what about raisinets?
I
Chocolate
love,
and
actually,
raisins.
I love
I
raisinets.
love raisinets.
Me too.
What about a tube of toothpaste? Mini tube.
Yeah, Terry's neighbor is a dentist.
I would
Growing
get a
up,
toothbrush of
They
toothpaste.
give toothbrush
Mhm.
toothpaste, and yet nobody ever egged their house or burnt it down. I'm surprised.
Burnt it down. That's a bit extreme, but yeah, okay.
Well, they
Handing
did,
out floss.
no, they did much worse. We'll get into this. This is nuts. How violent and destructive things actually got. No, just kind of going back with these ancient traditions. So because of that practice, it became trick or treat. That's where that came from. Is either you give us a treat or we're going to play tricks on you, and they weren't really nice tricks. So, but young women also believed that on Halloween that they could divine the name or the appearance of their future husband by doing tricks with yarn, apple parings, or mirrors. So I think we've kind of lost that. How do you do tricks with yarn? I'm thinking like yo-yo tricks. But it's like, I don't know what, you tie a knot and then go, pa-ching, and the knot just disappears. And then all of a sudden the name of your, I don't know how this works.
Yeah, not a clue.
But yeah, that's what they say. In the late 1800s, there was a move to America to mold Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers rather than about ghosts, pranks, and witchcraft. And at the turn of the century, Halloween parties for both children and adults became the most common way to celebrate the day. The parties focused on games, foods of the season, so your fall harvest type stuff, and then festive costumes that weren't like animal heads and skins. Parents were encouraged by newspapers and the community leaders to take anything frightening or grotesque out of Halloween celebrations. And because of these efforts, Halloween lost most of its superstitious and religious overtones by the beginning of the 20th century.
You know, it's funny because you mentioned the whole mirror thing, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that scrying of the mirror
Mm-hmm.
really turned into Bloody Mary,
Mm-hmm.
But it's witchcraft, though.
right? But at first,
mean-
it was I'm going to divine my husband by scrying in this mirror with
it
candles,
started
Yeah.
with that.
and then it turns into a sleepover game.
Yeah, and then it became something really dark and scary.
Yeah.
And then we watch Harry Potter where they stick their face in the, and then now it's cool again.
That's right.
Of course, it's witchcraft still because it's Harry Potter. But
But you have to pull a white thing out of your head first before you can scry.
you got to pull a white thing out of your head.
The memory.
The
You
memory.
gotta pull the,
Oh,
you gotta
Pull the
pull the
memory
memory
out.
out.
yeah.
Put it
That's
into
true.
the bowl.
That's true.
Yep.
Yep.
But honestly, trick-or-treating actually has ancient precedent. The candy part didn't come about until much later.
Well, and there was actually a part after the Great Depression that trick or treating for candy really didn't even happen because there was the sugar shortage and rationing and all that kind of stuff. So trick or treating actually stopped during the Great Depression. and then was brought back later.
Right. Throughout medieval Europe, there was people called mummers. And they would dress in disguises, and they would visit neighborhoods while dancing and playing music and doing tricks on the popular feast days. And they would do the same things. They would tell fortunes, and then they would also go door to door asking for treats and stuff. But there's a song that just comes to my head all the time when I think of that, called "The Mummers Dance" by Enya, I believe. Anyway, but Time magazine reported that Scottish and Irish immigrants brought the souling to the States in the 1800s. Modern day trick or treating didn't catch on until the 1920s. The practice was actually pretty controversial into the 1950s, though. According to the American Journal of Plays, Gangsters, Pranksters, and the Invention of Trick or Treating, many adults raised stern objections to trick or treating over the decades. It was viewed as a form of extortion, which it is.
Yeah.
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 Like, give me candy, or I'm going to kill you. Or I'm going to kill your yard. I'm going to
tip over your outhouse.
Steal your car. I'm going to put a flaming bag of dog poop on your porch. You're going to get egg. You're going to get toilet paper. Yeah. So that was up into the 50s. And then that's where Terry said candy came into play.
Let me interject real quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. It didn't get started until after World War II, or until World War II, right? But the American kids were known to go out on Thanksgiving itself and ask for food.
Yeah, some people say trick-or-treating started because of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Going around and asking, do you have any extra?
Yeah, and it was Thanksgiving begging.
Mm-hmm.
Which would make sense, right? Because during World War II was the Great Depression.
Yeah, and people have these great big huge feasts and then have leftovers.
Yeah, and those who don't have any food, they go door to door to get it.
And so we talked about the parties, right? They made a big move for the community part of things. Let's bring parties. Let's bring all the kids in. It's going to limit the vandalism, because if the kids all have somewhere to go, I mean, that's like what the whole YMCA thing was, right?
Yeah.
If they have somewhere to go after school, then they will be productive young citizens, and
you can get a good meal.
And you get a good meal. Yes. Thank you, village people. But anyway, so through the 1920s and 30s, Halloween became all about the parties, and it did a really good job of actually, like I said, cutting out the vandalism. It
became much more commercialized by that point.
It did. And by the 1950s, the town leaders had successfully limited the vandalism, and Halloween evolved into a holiday directed mainly at the young. Due to the high numbers of young children during the 50s, the baby boom, parties moved from town civic centers into the classrooms and into homes where they could be more easily accommodated.
Which is crazy to think about, because how many of us have parents that were born in the 1950s, which is around when Halloween really started becoming what we know as Halloween now? That's not that long ago.
I think all of us.
Yeah, that's really not that long ago.
No.
So in the 50s, trick-or-treating actually became kind of back into the mainstream. It had been that old soul cakes thing.
Thank you, Boomer.
Yeah.
Right?
They're okay.
And it became an inexpensive way for an entire community to share in the Halloween celebration. You didn't have to go to somebody's house to have a party. You just let the kids come to you. You give them some candy. They weren't even of a mind to be mischievous. And they just run around with cool little costumes and collect candy, go home and go get hyper, So that's where the American tradition was born, and it's continued to grow. Today, Americans spend an estimated $6 billion annually on Halloween, which makes it the country's second largest commercial holiday.
Behind Christmas?
Behind Christmas, yep.
1 billion of that being spent in this house on Halloween candy.
$1 billion.
Oh my gosh. We spend so much money on Halloween candy.
Yeah.
So, speaking of commercial success, scary Halloween movies have had a long history of being box office hits. So, movies like Halloween, right? Which actually was the first one.
Didn't that start in the 70s?
It did, yeah. It actually was started in 1978. It was
the year most of us were born.
I'm the old fart. I was already alive at that point.
Nope, I was not
We're not
born
even going
yet.
to talk about when Elisa was born.
Elisa
We're just going to
was
skip right past
just
that.
a gleam in her father's
She's
eye.
a baby.
But in Halloween, the movie, a young boy named Michael Myers murders his 17-year-old sister and is committed to jail only to escape as a teen on Halloween night and seek out his old home and a new target. So considered a classic horror film down to its spooky soundtrack, which is amazing. It has inspired 11 other films in the franchise and other
One that came out today.
and other slasher. Yeah, that's right. It did come out
There was one that came out today.
on the day that we're recording.
Or was it
this.
yesterday?
I'm not sure.
It came out this
Yesterday.
weekend.
Yesterday. Anyway, so it also inspired other slasher films like Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, as well as the more family-friendly Halloween movies like Hocus Pocus, Nightmare Before Christmas,
Oh, love those ones. Those two are my favorite.
Beetlejuice, and The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown.
Love that one.
But it took a whole... I mean, everything had been mellowed out, right? And then all of a sudden these movies come out and it all goes back to... ignites a whole new genre of adult parties and scary stuff and the horrors of things that all of our parents' generations have tried to get rid of.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it, right? Like, how many like haunted houses now are out, right? There's so many of them, and they've taken everything. Like, I remember growing up, and they were like really cheesy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now they're getting to, hyper realistic environments.
Oh yeah, it's like The Touching, and like you can be locked inside a freezer. You pay more money for this, obviously. You go
Yeah.
into places and they'll do things to you.
Yeah,
They'll-
Asylum 49 will. They'll kidnap people and then like chain them to a table for 2 hours.
You have to sign like a little.
Oh, yeah.
Sign a waiver.
Sign a waiver,
Yeah.
but
And people line up to do this crap.
No thanks.
yeah, exactly.
It's like you want me to lock you in my trunk? I could go do that now,
Right?
And
you can pay me for that. I'll
you
do
don't
it.
even have to pay.
Yeah.
If you're obnoxious enough, yeah, I'll just knock you in the trunk.
Here, sign this waiver.
Let me do it for
And
free.
then pay me money.
There's a deposit box inside.
Tip jar.
So going back to some of the other traditions, dressing up for... Well, first of all, I just wanted to mention, so Halloween, right? Do you guys know where that mask came from?
Yes.
Tell us, Josh.
That was a Captain Kirk mask turned inside out.
No, that actually wasn't turned inside out.
Oh, I heard it was turned inside out.
They did
I've heard that, but they didn't.
Yeah, they did a mold of it.
So, yeah. But no, it was, Captain Kirk. It was William Shatner.
It's William Shatner's face.
It's
And
William
then
Shatner's
they
face.
painted it white, and then they cut the eye holes just a little bit bigger.
So the man who just went into space at the age of 90
Yep.
was
Is-
the face of a horror franchise.
Yep.
Yeah. How many people have died because of that? I don't know.
Too many people.
In the movies, lots.
Yeah.
Let's see, when he was just Captain Kirk, he just beat up a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody died.
Oh,
I wasn't much of a Trekkie. I don't know.
Spock did.
But did he? But then he came back. He turned out he's actually alive. On Halloween, when it was believed that ghosts came back to the earthly world, people thought that they would encounter ghosts if they left their homes. So to avoid being recognized by the ghosts, people would wear masks when they left their homes after dark so that the ghosts would mistake them for fellow spirits. And so that's why when I leave the house on Halloween, always wear a sheet. So they think that I'm a ghost.
Oh man, the masks we used to wear when we were kids, those big plastic
Oh, they were awful.
things you could barely breathe through and see anything. It's like, hey kids, let's go run from door to door, but you can barely see out of these things.
Well, and the other funny thing is with like the costumes, right? They used to be like, most of them were made of paper, like in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
They were made of paper, which obviously is a fire hazard if you're around candles or
Bonfires.
other things, bonfires. And so in the 70s, they moved to something much safer, plastic,
Yes.
which is also highly flammable and just melts the body.
And now, like, masks are banned everywhere.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like we've gone such a like Halloween has gone in this weird like circle with costumes.
It is kind of weird. Some parties, things are welcome, but I mean, like right now, I'm just on the table here next to my laptop. I have stuff for a church party that I was helping to promote. Anyway, Yeah, the rules: no masks, no.
Well, now it's starting to get to a point like with my kids' school, they sent out like a flyer basically saying that if it's about another culture or if it will, offend another culture, you can't wear that either. Or like a religious group.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
So
heard about
like
that.
if you want to be a nun, nope.
Yep.
So that's what we call cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's crazy to
Canceling
me.
Halloween because it
It's
might
cr-
offend somebody, like the dead. Imagine if you offended the dead, then what?
So I want to go back just a handful of years because there's a movie that Jamie and I have watched, and they have an interesting Halloween tradition. I think it was. I don't think it's My Fair Lady.
I've
No, there's no
watched
Halloween in My Fair Lady.
No. Hold on.
You mean St. Louis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because what do they do when they go out in that? That was
Well,
crazy.
neighborhood kids dress up. They go and throw a bunch of old like wood and furniture and do a huge bonfire. And then they have bags of flour. And they have to go to like someone's house that they believe is like an evil person or a
Just a
demon
cranky old
or a
dude.
cranky old man or whatever. And they have to knock on their door. And when the person opens the door, they have to say, "I hate you," and then their name, and then throw the flour in their face.
Well, that
Oh.
sounds nice.
That's
Yeah.
rude.
That's what I want. A flower.
Way to love your neighbor.
Right?
Right?
You don't get candy from me.
But that was,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming, I mean, this is Hollywood eyes in that sense, right? But I'm assuming that is a tradition that they actually did back in, that was the early teens, right?
I'm not really sure.
It was before cars, so it would been late
Yeah.
18s, maybe early 19s.
It was in the 1900
Yeah.
1900s.
really early 1900s. So yeah, just interesting in that avenue, right? It's like I'm gonna go out.
1930s. I
All the
think.
kids would do, like the parents wouldn't go out. The kids would be the ones that go out. They sort of bonfire in the middle of the street and they dress
Wow.
up and they, flower everybody.
And then you look like a ghost because you're walking around.
Right.
On,
Yeah.
like,
But it's just interesting how, like, because they talk about, the stuff like community wise, and it's still moving further and further that direction where most now in a lot of places, kids don't go out trick or treating anymore. It's all the trunk or treat. It's
I
the
hate
community
the trunk or
center.
treats.
And that's it.
I
Like
hate them.
they just,
Oh,
it just stops.
Yeah, I'm on these Facebook groups, and these moms are asking, okay, what neighborhoods are actually doing trick or treating instead of these trunk or treats? I'm like, that's terrible. We grew up, okay, so I
Yeah,
was
you-
born in the mid
you
80s,
had to work
right?
for it, right?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was like we had pillowcases. We didn't,
Oh, yeah.
not these small crap
bags,
little bags.
buckets.
I had my entire pillowcase, and I would go out all night long. My parents
Yeah.
were like, okay, see you later.
yeah.
You know?
Well, this is the whole reason why we took our daughter trick or
Would
treating.
you let your boys go out trick or treat by themselves until like? I mean, your
No.
oldest is what, 12?
Yeah.
Would
No.
you would you let them all go? See, now you wouldn't go out anywhere without them.
Yeah, I wouldn't go without them.
because we grew up in a different time.
I know we
Yeah.
grew up in the best time.
Right.
We did.
Yep.
It was awesome.
And
The 80s were awesome.
there was a couple Halloweens where like we would fill up the pillowcase and then go back and fill it
Empty
and
it.
Oh,
dump
totally.
it and then keep
Yeah.
filling it.
So these kids came to my door and I'm like, hey, so what are you guys going to be for Halloween? They're like, oh, we're not going trick or treating. They're 12. Like, we're not going trick or treating. I'm like, well, why not? Well, we always have leftover candy anyway, so that way we don't actually have to exercise and we just get candy anyway. I'm like, what the heck?
That's
You
sad.
guys, you are missing out.
That is so sad.
So, if you ever meet a devil on a darkened road, don't try to trick him into climbing a tree.
What?
You heard me. If you ever meet the devil on a darkened road, don't try to trick him into climbing a tree.
I usually
the-
challenge him to a
These
fiddle
days,
duel.
I was going to say you challenge him to a fiddle contest. So, otherwise, you might end up like the Irish folk figure Jack O'Lantern. Modern day, intricately designed pumpkin cart creations. They make for impressive decorations, but back in the day, the folks in Ireland actually dubbed their carved fiery turnips jack-o'-lanterns. Now, they use turnips. You guys know what a turnip's like?
Yeah, they're only about the size of a baseball, softball.
Yeah,
if you
they're
get a big
not
one.
big.
No.
So to carve like a face and like stuff and then light up a turnip, that's just pretty darn impressive.
Take some skill.
Because pumpkins are big and they're like
Hollow.
hollow and easier to carve out. They would carve turnips. And it all became about because of one night, a conniving local drunkard named Jack trapped the Prince of Darkness in a tree by hacking the sign of the cross into the bark. And in exchange for letting Satan climb down, Jack had him vow to never claim his soul. So Jack proceeded to act like a jerk and an a-hole all his life. When he died, he sure as heck was not allowed in heaven because of his behavior. So he tried to return to his old pal, the devil. But Satan upheld his end of the deal, saying, I'm not taking you. And he hurled a piece of coal from hell at the dead man for good measure. Go away. I don't want you. I'm not breaking my deal. So left without anywhere to go, Jack placed the blazing coal into a turnip to use as a lantern. And the dead man then set out, doomed to wander until he can find an eternal resting place.
Yeah, I've never heard that story. That's cool.
I have not either.
It's an Irish legend.
I would never carve a turnip.
No.
I don't have the talent or the patience.
Oh my gosh, I
I
love
don't-
carving
I don't
pumpkins.
have
Don't
the
get me
talent to
wrong.
do a
I have
pumpkin.
done some amazing
She's
pumpkins,
amazing.
but I would never carve a turnip.
You should share some of them, maybe.
My pumpkins.
Some of the good ones.
That'd be cool.
I need to
She's
figure
actually
out.
really good.
I'd
I
love
need
to
to figure
see
out what I'm
some.
going to do this year.
But when did the turnip get replaced with the pumpkin? Like,
Well,
it's
in-
been, right? But
well,
when?
So, you coming to America, turnips aren't quite as a popular thing, where pumpkins are, very common, especially in the fall, and they're much easier to carve. And so people started doing the pumpkins instead of doing turnips. Now, if you want to do a turnip, you can.
I saw somebody
It's
use
like
a
trying
potato.
it's like trying to carve a potato, essentially, because turnips are essentially like a potato.
Similar.
When you have neeps and tatties, one of my favorite Scottish things, it's like mashed potatoes, essentially. Slightly different, but pretty close.
You could carve a pineapple.
Yes.
Oh, you could-
watermelon.
Watermelon, yeah.
Watermelon's really cool because you have the different layers. You can do the green, the white,
Yeah.
and the pink. So you can get some really cool
That
Oh,
is-
that
stuff
would
with
be cool.
watermelons.
Amazing.
So
And it tastes way better.
here's an interesting little stat for us. The pumpkin producing states in the U.S. produce 1 billion pounds in 2006, with Illinois leading the country by producing 492 million pounds of pumpkins. So the pumpkin patches in California, Ohio, and Pennsylvania also provide at least 100 million pounds. The value of all pumpkins produced by major pumpkin producing states was $101 million.
$101 million.
That's a bunch of money.
It is.
Mhm.
It is. In fact, Terry's parents live right next to a big, gigantic pumpkin patch. They do corn during.
Yeah, they do corn in the summertime, but it's not. Their corn is a different field. The field right by us is their pumpkin patch every year, and there's always cars parked up and down my parents' street.
it's
Everybody
crazy.
going to their pumpkin patch.
We're talking about cars are parking because we were just there before we came here.
Mhm.
Probably a good 150 yards away from their house, just where you go get your little wagon to go pick out a pumpkin.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
We made the mistake of doing that once. We went to this pumpkin place in Washington State, and we went out and picked pumpkins. This is when our son was, I don't know, 3, 4, something really little, right? And we bought like 4 pumpkins. We thought this was the coolest thing, and then we realized it was $120, and we're
Yeah.
like, what the heck just happened?
Whoa.
So, we just don't do it. It's as neat as it is. Like we still get
No,
pumpkins
you
and carve
don't-
them, but we just go to the store and
Yeah.
buy them.
Yeah.
You don't buy pumpkins at pumpkin patches.
And even at the stores, it gets really expensive. If, you get like a little tiny one, and it costs a lot of money, and it's hard to. So, just local tip: if you live in the Salt Lake area, go to Winco.
Winco. Okay, here's the trick.
Huge
Here's the
pumpkins.
trick with Winco. You get the biggest pumpkin you can find because their scales only go up so high. So you will buy a pumpkin that weighs more than their scale will go, but they have to charge you the price as high as the scale goes.
Awesome.
Nice.
So,
we-
and they get some huge ones.
So we've gotten home and weighed our pumpkin, and we've gotten probably 10 pounds more than what their scale went.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we just went to our local Smith's.
Oh, Smith's has
Which
got
is
good. Even
Kroger.
Costco gets good pumpkins.
Yeah, but they charged $6 a pumpkin.
Yeah.
Regardless of size.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, these were like 59 cents a pound, if I remember right. Like
No,
last
we've got
year.
them as low as like 15 cents a pound sometimes.
Dang.
Yeah, that's when you get the giant pumpkin when it's like 15 cents a pound. Pumpkin patches, like a lot of the pumpkin patches charge $1 a pound.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, well, that's great. There's a 50-pound pumpkin I just picked up, and that's $50. Like, now I'm going to roll that back.
So when we do ours, it's like, so there's 3 of us in our family, and so we'll go pick out 3 big pumpkins, and then we'll sit there, and there's like these giant boxes full of all the pumpkins, and we'll pull them all out. I mean, I will dig them out and line them
Oh,
all
yeah.
up on the curb. I mean, we're going to spend 45 minutes here going through and finding.
But then we will
The right
spend
ones.
6 or 7 hours carving our pumpkins. And we got to make sure they
Yeah.
sit flat. And we got to make sure it has
It's a good
the
face.
right face or the side of the pumpkin we want to recarve on. Because we know what we're carving before we buy the pumpkins. We need to make sure we have a big enough canvas to
We're
work
not just
with.
cutting triangle eyes and a jagged mouth. We're talking about like,
Yeah.
she has like ceramic tools that we
Yeah.
use to scrape things.
I've got
and-
some crazy
Like
tools that I
legit.
use. Mhm.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I am much more of the triangle eyes and
Oh, no, I am.
the crappy.
I've spent so much.
That's
spent
phenomenal.
so
That was
much-
my pumpkin I did last year.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
She's showing everybody. It's a.
You
the-
definitely need to post some of
the
these.
Anti-possession.
It's the anti-possession symbol from Supernatural that I carved in my
and
pumpkin.
it's
That
it's
is
not
awesome.
carved. It's not cut at all.
It's scraped.
It's all scraped.
See, like I think the coolest show I've ever watched before this year was Halloween Wars. And the pumpkin carvers on that show were phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I can't do them. I can't do that way, but
No, but
That's-
you need to post some of those because
that's what Annika did last year on her pumpkin.
that's good too.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's beyond
I,
anything.
I,
can do.
I didn't do one last year because I've
No.
gotten lazy. I've been
Mike's
like,
done.
I'm tired. I don't want to go home
I
and spend.
hate carving pumpkins.
I right.
Yes.
I'm just gonna get the stuff I
I'll
stick into the
paint a
pumpkin.
pumpkin
Just
before
sculpt
I want to
some
carve
cream
it.
Here's the thing.
cheese.
I will clean out and gut your pumpkins for you if that's the thing you
Oh.
hate doing because I love that part.
She does a really good job.
You were invited over because my tactile children will love you because they're sitting there trying not to throw up. They're like, as they're pulling out the
Well,
guts.
when you have the right tools to clean those things out, I can have them cleaned so fast.
Oh
Anyways.
yeah. Anyway, we've gone off a little bit of the rails a little bit here on a sidetrack on pumpkins, but
It's all Halloween.
let's
That's
talk
right.
about some more here. So, how about black cats and ghosts?
Yes.
I see a black cat right now.
And I don't believe in ghosts.
It's sitting on your, and there are ghosts in the room
No,
right
but
now.
you talk to him.
But I don't believe I'm talking to them.
So, with black cats and ghosts, Halloween's always been a holiday filled with mystery, magic, and superstition. It began as like I said, it was the Celtic end of summer festival when everybody felt close to their deceased relatives and friends. And for friendly spirits, they would set places at the dinner table like they did with Dia de los Muertos. They would leave treats on the doorsteps and along the side of the road, and would light candles to help loved ones find their ways back to the spirit world. So they're here, like, okay, great. Follow the candles, it'll take you back away. But today's Halloween ghosts are often depicted as more fearsome and malevolent. It's not just, celebrating your dead ancestors.
It's not a Casper ghost.
No, they're not Caspers.
Love Casper.
Um,
Friendliest ghost.
But
and yeah,
I was saying we can blame Hollywood for that.
we can.
We
Absolutely.
can thank
We-
Hollywood
and-
for that.
Yeah, I go both ways on that. Blame and thank. But our customs and superstitions are scarier too. We avoid crossing paths with black cats, unless you are Josh and Jamie. They're all about.
We live with two of them.
They'll cross paths with those cats anytime.
They're good luck.
Well, see, I've
And
also
they are
heard that
sweet cats.
people who have black cats, their owners will keep them inside on Halloween for that purpose
Yeah.
because of
Oh,
the
yeah.
myths. They
I
have to be
remember
real
growing
careful.
up and hearing that. 'cause
You have
we
to
had
be
a black
really
cat.
careful with cats on
Yeah,
Halloween.
Yeah.
so my cat was pure white growing up, and we kept him inside because people would try to steal him.
Yeah.
Well, here's why. Okay, so we avoid crossing paths with black cats because we're afraid that they might bring us bad luck. And the idea actually has its roots in the Middle Ages, when many people believed that witches avoided detection by turning themselves into black cats, like Mrs. McGonagall on Harry Potter.
So she was a tabby.
She wasn't really a black cat, but see, she evolved. She knew that if I'm
Yeah.
a black cat, then they're gonna know. So she changed to a tabby to be a little bit less conspicuous.
Got it. That's why.
Just facts. That's just a Fact.
Harry Potter lore.
It's a Dwight Schrute fact. Anyway, but yeah, so that's kind of where the cats comes from. We try not to walk under ladders for the same reason. A superstition might have come from the ancient Egyptians, where they believed that triangles were sacred. It may also have to do with the fact that walking under a leaning ladder might be unsafe. But especially around Halloween, we try to avoid stuff. We try to avoid breaking mirrors. People try to avoid stepping on cracks in the road or spilling salt, or I don't know. We have all kinds of weird superstitions around Halloween just because of the fear of witches, I guess. So
Doesn't on the salt bottle, like on the container of salt, that it says to make a circle around yourself to protect yourself from witches? Doesn't
No,
it
I've
say it
not.
on the container?
I've never seen that.
I gotta go look.
I saw on one of our iodized salt,
I'll have to look at it.
it had that on there.
Huh. I'll have to go look.
Interesting.
How long ago did you buy your salt?
And it doesn't go bad, so.
Came from my parents' food storage, so I'm just kidding.
This salt has been passed down from the pioneers that crossed the plains and
And they
immigrated
had
to
it,
Utah.
and it was passed down to them.
Guys, it was just like Hocus Pocus, remember?
Yep.
But yeah, so, and then going back to some of the other things, how about matchmaking and some of the lesser known rituals? So we talked about bobbing for apples.
Yep.
And we'll talk a bit more about kind of why they did these. But a lot of these obsolete rituals that, that used to be focused on the future instead of the past. And it focused on the living instead of the dead. So, like I said, in particular, many had to do with helping young women identify their future husbands and reassuring them that someday, with luck, maybe by next Halloween, that they'd be married. In 18th century Ireland, a matchmaking cook might bury a ring in her mashed potatoes on Halloween night, hoping to bring true love to the diner who found it.
Or choked on it.
Or choked on it. Now it's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
But it was meant with love. In Scotland, fortune tellers recommended that an eligible young woman would name a hazelnut for each of her suitors. Those are like the guys that she's interested in, right? And then toss the nuts into a fireplace. I wouldn't recommend this now.
No.
The nut that burned to ashes rather than popping or exploding, as the story went, would represent the girl's future husband.
The poor guy.
Well,
Right?
yeah, what I have is that people wrote messages on pieces of paper in milk, and then the notes were folded and placed into the walnut shells. And then the shells would be heated over a fire, causing the milk to brown just enough for the message to mystically appear on the paper for the recipient.
It's like divination from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Grim. It's like, no, it's a man. It says James. I swear. It's the Grim. But the nut that burned to ashes rather than popping was her future husband. Of course, if it's burned to ashes, then how do you know which one it was whose name you wrote on this?
Guess got to remember.
Right. The one on the right was James. I promised. It's like, no, it said Marcus. Like, no, I didn't want Marcus. Anyway. In some versions of this legend, the opposite was actually true. The nut that burned away symbolized love that would not last. Another tale had it that if a young woman ate a sugary concoction made out of walnuts, hazelnuts, and nutmeg before bed on Halloween night, she would dream about her future husband.
I know what I'm eating before bed. Oh, wait. Sorry.
And then they later replaced that with eggnog,
And they would
because that
all-
would taste a heck of a lot better.
And they would all be sparkly vampires, look like Edward Cullen.
Bleh.
Another one, young women tossed apple peels over their shoulders, hoping that the peels would fall on the floor in the shape of their future husband's initials.
Yep. Yeah, and that took
Oh,
place in the
boy.
early
They were desperate, man.
that was the 1800s.
This was before video games.
So this is like colonial era United
No.
States.
They also tried to learn about their futures by peering at egg yolks floating in a bowl of water
This is totally Harry Potter.
and stood in front of mirrors in darkened rooms. Oh,
Hello.
Bloody
This is
Mary.
great.
Bloody Mary.
holding candles and looking over their shoulders for their husbands' faces.
Creepy.
Right?
Yeah.
So that sounds like you were actually standing backwards to the mirror, holding a candle, and looking into the mirror over your shoulder.
Well, you'd stand there and you would look. You'd face the mirror, and you're holding the candle. So it's between you and the mirror, and then you're supposed to be looking kind of in the reflection over your shoulder, and in that
Oh,
reflection in the
Oh.
mirror, the image of your future husband's face is supposed to appear,
Or a stalker.
Yeah, or a
or
stalker.
Candyman, or Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is the girl I love. Other rituals were more competitive. At some Halloween parties, the first guest to find a burr on a chestnut hunt would be the first one to marry, and at others, the first successful apple bobber would be the first one down the aisle. So not only were you looking at like who, but it was like the first one to get one. It's like catching the bouquet, right? Of course, we're asking for romantic advice and trying to avoid, 7 years of bad luck. Each one of these superstitions, relies on the goodwill of those same spirits that you're kind of trying to get those answers back from, as far as who's going to be. So, bobbing for apples used to be much more than just a splashy party game. Halloween has come to be mostly associated with the pumpkins, but apples, like we mentioned before, were a huge part of Halloween's history. Bobbing for apples remains probably the most popular party game. And the reason is that, like you said, it was considered a form of divination performed around Halloween according to NPR. And so that's right. People would dunk their heads in a vat of water, try to bite into a floating fruit to guess into a quest to figure out their future spouse. Ladies would mark an apple, toss it into the tub, and thinking that they were destined to whoever pulled it out of the water. So they didn't really put their name on who it was supposed to be. So the ladies would mark an apple. So they would kind of make some way of identifying which apple was theirs. And then they would toss it into the tub, and then whichever guy pulled it out with his teeth, that's your guy.
But did you say that it's still a popular game to
Let's
play?
say, has anybody here actually bobbed for apples?
I have.
I have,
Not since childhood.
Yeah,
but it
like,
was when I was a kid.
I never
I did
have.
a singles word activity.
I never have.
See, now it's like everyone looks at it like, okay, you want me to put my face in the water that you put your snot face in that water?
It's gross.
Only if
I
I
go
go
Ew.
first.
I'm worried about the spit that the mouth that's
Right.
touched that apple that didn't grab it.
Well, so they started tying them to strings now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've
No,
seen
those
them
are
tie-
called donuts.
I've seen the
Yeah.
Yeah, they
donuts.
do
tied to
donuts too, but I've
screens.
seen apples.
I've seen that too, but like it's not the same bobbing for apple.
No, it's not.
No, it's
Well,
not.
it took
They
a lot
did
more
that for a
effort.
reason, though.
Yeah, because it's
For a
more
couple reasons.
sanitary.
Yeah,
It's easier.
exactly.
Well, you gotta look
COVID.
at it. You know what? Do you ever go swimming?
Yes, and
That pool is full of urine.
because I put it there.
No, wait. The urine, it turns blue, remember?
Yes, when
There's
you
a
make,
chemical when you make a
grown-ups.
sissy.
when you make a sissy. So, people, I don't think. I mean, you look at how filthy water used to be anyway. I mean, if you go back far enough, that's why they used to
Oh, it
drink.
was like brown.
That's why they drank wine back at the time of Jesus, because water would
wasn't-
just
Water
give you
do.
diarrhea.
yeah, it
otherwise
wasn't that safe.
Yes, so I don't think people used to be quite as concerned with things. They would share flasks, they'd share bottles. Now we're all germ conscious and afraid of the Rona, and I don't know.
Well, exactly. That's why we're saying that I don't think bobbing
That's
for
why we don't
apples
have
is
a
not.
myth.
It's just not what it. Well, one is not what it used to be, and I don't think people do it anymore because even the whole string piece, right? If you're sitting there underneath an apple and you're like licking it for 20 minutes, and then you like switch over and lick another one for 5 minutes, and then you finally catch a different one. Well, there's 2 apples hanging that you've licked on for a while.
So here's what I'm thinking, right? So it was a way that either the filthy people could actually bathe their faces because they didn't bathe. They didn't bathe as much back in the older days, right? It's true. Or you could look at it the other way. It was safe because to come to the parties, they would actually clean themselves, so they were clean. It was okay. But
Either
we
way,
we don't have immune systems now because we're all worried about germs.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Still
why
you.
That's why they were hardier people.
And
Either
they died
way.
at the age of 50.
They
Yes.
were a hardier folk, and they died at the age of 20.
But they never got sick.
Yeah, but I'd like to hear Terry's the different Halloween laws
Okay.
in different
Yes.
states. I would love
So-
to hear that.
In 2004, just, in 2004, not long ago,
No,
Hollywood banned silly string on Halloween.
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Oh, here goes Hollywood again.
Because silly string causes more fights, the litter trying to clean it up. It's hazardous for cars and policemen on foot. Have you ever stepped on silly string? That stuff is slippery. So if you get caught using silly string on Halloween, it's $1,000 fine.
Whoa.
Wow.
This is California.
It caused over $200,000 in damage in Hollywood every Halloween, so they decided to ban it. That's the reason why they
$200,000
in damage. Okay, the other thing is, we found this out the hard way. Silly string dyes clothing. So my niece, on her wedding day, when she was leaving, they all thought it'd be really funny to spray her with silly string as she was leaving, because you don't throw the rice and do stuff like that.
Right.
The silly string that got on her
birds.
dress, as we were peeling it off, it was like dyeing her dress.
Oh no.
The silly string was. And so fast forward to my next niece getting married, and they had sprayed silly string all over in her car before she got in. I'm like, do not sit on this silly string. So we were like cleaning her car out of all this silly string before she got in so it wouldn't stain her dress.
Oh.
It's not so silly after all.
Yeah. So don't use silly string in Hollywood on Halloween.
Sounds more like a trick than a treat.
So then you use it on you use it on All Saints Day.
Yeah.
And you're okay.
Yes.
So then in Belleville, Missouri, the mayor of the town passed a law saying that only kids up to grade 8 were allowed to go trick-or-treating, because he felt that Halloween should only be for little kids.
Oh, lame.
Unless you're a really tiny 9th grader, you could get away with it.
But, well, you know, my parents limited us. When I turned 13, we didn't go out anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
I went out till I was like 16, man. That was
That's when
free
we started-
candy.
That's when we started going to parties.
Yeah, I think I stopped at 13.
And my dad would actually get really stingy when like big teenagers came to when I was younger. He'd be like, "No, you're too old for this," you know. And then it's just like, "Dad, don't turn them away because they'll."
Well,
Take
at
our
this
house.
point now, it's like everyone's like, hey, if you're in a costume, come on. Like, I don't care how old you are. If teenagers are out there trick-or-treating, fantastic. That means they're not doing
No,
something
I-
stupid.
That's
I-
right.
Right.
do
That's right.
require, yeah, and that's a good point. I do kind of require that you do put on like some sort of a costume. I mean, don't just half-ass it.
As long
and
as they're in a costume, I'll give them candy. I don't care.
don't wear a Brett
Agreed.
Favre
Like,
jersey.
they're out of the
with
house,
your
they're doing
Levi's
something.
and
I give the parents
say
candy.
you're a
I
football
give.
player.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in Wall
I'm
Creek,
dressed up as
California,
Michael Jordan.
you actually need a permit to wear a mask on Halloween. They created this law to try to prevent people from causing trouble.
Fast forward to COVID.
So the police come and they're like, so, where's your permit?
In Dublin, Georgia, not only are you not allowed to wear a mask on Halloween if you are older than 16, you also can't wear sunglasses or a hood or anything else that might cover your face out in public.
Fast forward to COVID.
In Bathurst, Bathurst, Nebraska, you will be fined for trick-or-treating after 8 p.m.
What?
What? That's when it's just begun.
Right?
Like-
You can blame some particularly rowdy teenagers for this rule, which came into effect after some teens were being a little too wild out late on Halloween.
What, like 9 o'clock?
I don't know.
Rebels.
Like, I mean,
After dark.
I get a curfew. I mean, I understand a curfew aspect of it,
Oh, for sure.
but like it gets dark at 7.
Right?
So like, guess what, kids? You get 1 hour of fun.
No, I've
trick-or-treating.
seen trick-or-treaters starting like at 5 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That drives
Yeah.
me crazy.
So,
Let's be
yeah,
honest.
It's crazy. So then in Delaware, trick-or-treating is illegal on Sundays. Not
Oh.
Utah.
Whoa.
They did this rule because they didn't want to disrupt people who celebrate the Sabbath on Sundays. It's a religious day
what
and
if
a day
they're
of rest.
Seventh-day Adventists and it's on Saturday? Or if they're Jewish?
Exactly.
Yeah, so if it falls on Sunday, like it does this year, kids are expected to go out on Saturday.
All right, I'm Christian and I'm cool, and I get it, and I celebrate on the Sabbath on Sunday.
Hmm
But I'm not going to be uptight about it.
And then in France, okay, so there's anyway. In France, you are banned from dressing up as clowns for Halloween. This happened in 2014 because what happened in 2014?
Oh, the whole clown.
There was
thing.
the clown craze where people were dressing up as clowns and scaring,
It.
and this was even like not even during Halloween. And so
Yeah.
France just completely banned clown costumes.
You know what stopped that whole thing?
Someone shot one, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a guy standing on the street corner dressed as a clown in South Bend. I think it was South Bend, Indiana. The guy shot him, killed him. No one
Yeah.
dressed up as clowns anymore.
Yeah, it all stopped.
See?
Okay, and so
Sorry,
No, go ahead,
No,
go
you
ahead.
go ahead. No.
no, I was moving. Go.
No, as I say, see, we can solve a lot of the world's problems just by shooting the people that are causing problems. It's called natural selection.
Yeah.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
No, that was just saying. Do any of you guys ever check your kids' Halloween candy
Yes.
Yes, for razor blades.
for razor blades, drugs, whatever?
Pills,
'Cause-
anything.
I always lick his candy first to make sure there's no drugs on it.
There's always a mom tax,
No,
a dad tax, right?
That's what I check it for. I check it for the things that I want.
See, I only check to see if like anything's been opened.
Yep.
I mean, but part of the reason why that is so in New York in 1964, a woman made bags of non-treat stuff for teenagers who were trick or treating. In these non-treat bags, there was steel wool, doggy biscuits, and arsenic-laced candy buttons.
Whoa.
She was upfront with the kids and told them that they were not treats and there was poison in them. And she actually had like the skull and crossbone and had poison written on the bags. None of the kids ate any of this, but since she was endangering children, she was still charged for it.
Did she
Okay,
ever say
well,
why?
why?
Because they were too old for trick-or-treating, she thought.
Oh my word.
Here's some poison.
Gracious.
Don't eat it.
Turn them away. Don't
Yeah.
poison them.
So she pled guilty.
Just
She didn't
give 'em a-
deny it.
Just give them a pencil.
But that's kind
Toothbrush.
of that's kind of what started it, you know?
Yeah, and there's been more recent instances of that where there's been candy laced with LSD, laced with
Yeah.
meth.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. So
no one's
Which
died,
is crazy.
thankfully.
Because,
No.
because do you know how much that costs?
well, that's
A
the thing.
lot.
Nobody's going to use their drugs and like lace your, drug costs money. But there was in 1970, hold on, a kid named Kevin who was 5 died after spending 4 days in a coma from a heroin overdose that was found in his Halloween candy. Even though his death was accidental, the family staged a cover-up of what actually happened. So Kevin had gotten into his uncle's stash of heroin and overdosed. So they took some of that heroin and sprinkled it in his candy, his Halloween candy, to make it look like his Halloween candy had been laced with heroin to try to save the uncle. The family did a cover-up.
Oh.
I was thinking it was more like somebody who was careless with their. It's like, oh crap! I don't have any candy here. Grab one of these.
Yeah.
It's like,
So no, but since the
no,
news
no,
had
no.
already reported that the child died from Halloween candy laced with heroin, they couldn't really retract it and say that the parents
they
had actually.
They could,
but
but why would
Right.
why would the journalists want to be honest?
so yeah, so the family was trying to save their uncle and sprinkled the heroin in his candy.
Yeah, and I read that there was because if you guys remember the whole aspirin cyanide
Mm-hmm.
or the Tylenol cyanide thing.
Yeah.
It was also during that time where this piece of checking your kids'
Mhm.
candy really started to hit it, and they actually caught I believe they caught the guy who did that.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, and then there's like the gummies, the CBD gummies and stuff like that. So people were checking gummies a couple of years ago to see if people were handing those out for trick or treaters, and
Again, aren't these expensive?
yeah,
I
they
don't,
are.
I don't buy them. I've never bought them, so I just assuming they're expensive.
Yeah, they're not going to be cheap.
So, but here's the saddest one. This happened in 1974. A man, Ronald O'Brien, on Halloween gave his 8-year-old son, Timothy, one last piece of candy before going to bed. It was a pixie stick. The son ended up dying on the way to the hospital, and come to find out the dad had laced the pixie stick with cyanide. He'd actually also given these pixie sticks to his 2 other kids and their friends' kids to try to make it look like they had got them while they were trick-or-treating.
I remember that
What a
story.
douchebag.
So sad.
The reason why he killed his son was because he was so much in debt and he had a $40,000 life insurance policy on his son.
No.
So he was trying to collect the life insurance policy on his son.
Yeah, that's awful.
So
Like,
yeah, he was found guilty for murder and died 10 years later by lethal injection.
and see that, and that really shows you that this whole checking your candy thing,
Mhm.
like the incidents that are used to show that we should be checking our kids' candy, are actually nefarious by the parents of the kids that have
Right?
suffered injuries.
Yeah. I mean, still check your kids'
Check
candy.
your kids'
Oh,
candy.
Absolutely.
They
yes,
get-
100%. But you're not going to find,
See, I used to get popcorn balls.
homemade.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
You don't get homemade treats anymore
Oh no,
like you used
No.
to.
I think yeah. But nowadays, if someone put homemade treats in your kid's bag,
Would you let them eat them?
I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either.
no,
Now, that being said, I have been trick or treating with the kid and with the family, or we typically been going home trick or treating, where they do cider,
Mhm.
or they'll do donuts.
Yeah, they outside they have like a big
Or
pot of cider and
bowl of
donuts.
chili, or-
and-
It's actually it kind of brings back some of that social. Here, come get a bowl of chili.
yeah.
And you know the people or
Oh,
at least
yeah.
enough to trust. And then you sit there and you visit for a few minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've never
They did that in my old neighborhood.
Mhm.
It was awesome.
Yeah, see, we've never taken my daughter trick or treating in our neighborhood we live in right now. Never.
Because we don't know
Well,
most of the people.
but the problem is they always do a trunk or treat on Halloween. So
Mhm.
most of the people don't have candy because they gave it all out of the trunk or treat.
Hmm.
And now that I don't trust my neighbors, it's just that our neighborhood is dark
And the ones I do know, that we do know,
or older and
were at the trunk or treat.
or the trunk or treat. So we've always taken her trick or treating in the neighborhood I grew up trick or treating in, and it's the people that I know and people that I trust.
See, like in my neighborhood, my old neighborhood. It was awesome because at the beginning there was the family that had all the hot dogs and
Mhm.
bratwurst for the adults, and they had lemonade and hot chocolate, and then at the end, so you always start there, and then you go through the neighborhood, and at the end, there's somebody playing a movie on their garage door, and then all the kids and then there was a bunch of blankets so that they could sit and watch the movie and eat their candy at the same
that's
time.
cool.
Aw.
That's
So-
why we should do this in August.
So it's warm.
So it's warm.
It was hot.
I'm so nervous that it's going to be cold and stormy.
But
this
you know,
year.
see, I'd like those things because that's like the sense
Yeah.
of community, right? Like,
Yeah.
The thing we've lost with this whole trunk or treat piece is that we've taken away the community from everything, right? It's like, here, why don't you just come to this parking lot at McDonald's and we'll have some trunks open and you come get some candy and then you leave.
There's a
Yeah.
mortuary in Murray that does that. It's
Yep.
actually a lot of fun. But they don't do it on Halloween.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about trunk or treats. I think they're stupid.
Yeah,
So-
I'm not a fan, and maybe that's just because like I'd like to see kids out in the neighborhood walking around, knocking on doors, and doing the whole trick or treat thing. I think it's neat. Like when we used to live in these apartment complexes, and it was full of kids.
Mm-hmm.
We got 3 trick or treaters the entire 6 years
We had a
lived there.
whole plastic cauldron full of candy left over.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It
don't
was
even-
awful.
You don't even want to know how much candy we have.
And then what we found out that all the kids from the apartments went into the townhouse neighborhood next door
Mm-hmm.
and went there because they celebrated it. And there was a
Mhm.
guy in the corner that had music blasting and
Yeah.
he had those projectors up with people moving around and dancing and stuff. And it's like, this stuff is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, but since we've always taken our daughter trick or treating somewhere else, we have never passed out candy at our house. Till last year was the first
Till
year we
last
did
year,
it, but it
and-
was COVID. So,
But we go large at our
but
house.
this year we're doing the same thing. We're going all out. We'll have movies playing. We're
Yeah.
giving full size candies. We've got.
That's awesome.
It's
if you
gonna
know where we live,
come on
just-
by.
just come. It'll be good. It's fun. As long as it's not snowing.
Yeah,
Which,
we'll have
Or
our
if it's-
fire.
If it's all wet and cold, then yeah,
We don't know what we're gonna do.
we don't know what to do.
look, I grew up in North Dakota.
Mhm.
We would trick or treat at times in the snow.
Oh,
So
Oh, and I've
Yeah,
gone
so-
trick or treating in the
Here
snow.
too.
Yeah,
It's happened here when I
it's
was a
happened
kid.
here.
But we were the hardier in the 80s. So,
like my dad would drop us off on the corner and we would he would follow us as we went down the street and we'd knock on all the doors and then we'd hop in,
Warm up.
warm up, and then go to the next block and
Yep.
then do it all
Uh-huh.
over again.
We did that in Alaska too.
And we
for
went.
Halloween.
We
Yeah,
went.
see, it's cool.
We went trick or treating one time down in Moab, and that was a blast.
oh, yeah.
There was a band outside walking up and down the
It's
street
like a New
playing
Orleans
live
style
music.
band. It was kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And
That's awesome.
seriously, the people sat out in their driveways. You didn't even have to walk up to the door. People sat in their driveways with their candy. You just walk up and get your candy and keep on going. I mean,
That's awesome.
this street knew how to do trick or treating. It was
They still do.
cool.
They still do.
Yeah.
But,
I'd love to see that stuff.
It's hard to find that common these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And it's, I don't know, I mean, with so much money being spent on Halloween
Mhm.
every year, how is it that we don't have the same, like, decoration, the same pieces that we do for Christmas?
Yeah. Well,
some
actually,
of us
Utah
do.
Utah just took number 1 for the most decorated houses for Halloween.
Ooh. Where are these houses at?
Right, because I, like, driving around these neighborhoods, there's like 5.
Yeah, there's certain places you got to go find them, but
Terry
they're
sent me a list on Instagram.
they actually on. Of course, this is Utah. Our news station KSL. There is a map that you can go to where people have posted their houses, or you can go and
That's
watch
awesome.
them. So
and it'll tell you like what they have there. Like if it's if it's just a light display or if it's like things that move.
There's
if
actually
there's
one
music.
not far from you guys over in American Fork that has done like the projection mapping on their house.
Oh,
Nice.
I'll get you their address to go see it.
No, that'd
it's
be
called
awesome.
Baird Manor.
That'd be great. Exactly.
One more thing I wanted to ask everybody, just because we're talking about it. Your favorite piece of candy to get for Halloween candy. Your favorite candy. And let's also say, what's the worst? Your
Worst?
favorite and your most hated. What is
Oh, the most hated are
Yeah.
those orange and black.
Peanut
Yes.
butter. Those are nasty.
Those orange and black peanut butter candy
Chews.
wrapper things.
Those are terrible.
Yes.
They're awful.
And I haven't seen any of those out this year.
I haven't seen any for a while.
but
But
those
as a
were-
kid,
those were the worst as a kid.
That's what I
I
got the
hated
most,
those.
and that's what I hated the most.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was like those
Yeah.
ones were the ones I had left over.
I would vote that for the worst.
Me too.
I always loved the straight up Hershey's, the little Hershey's bars.
The chocolate.
Yeah, just the straight up chocolate bars.
just the miniatures?
Yeah. And I'm a huge like Reese's fan. I love peanut butter cups.
What's your worst?
Oh man. Let's see. I once got money.
but that's not
You
bad.
hated that?
Candy.
You could go buy
Your
candy
worst
with your money.
candy.
It was money I couldn't spend.
Your worst candy. Not what you got trick or treating, because then I could be like a pencil and toothpaste, but
Yeah, but that's still awful.
or
A little bag of
Um,
salad.
You laugh. I actually have seen that.
Yeah, those black and orange. Those
I don't know
Those
if
are
there's
so
any
nasty.
worse
I
candy.
can
Yeah.
still taste those.
Like-
I know,
It
and
makes
I
me
can
wanna
smell it.
gag.
I take candy corn over that any day.
Candy corns aren't bad.
I like candy corn.
But candy corns are a little individual. It's like giving somebody an M&M. It's like you give somebody a package of things.
yeah, they
so-
have those little
They
packages.
used to
of
come in
candy
yeah,
corn.
packs.
Okay.
little packages of candy
So
corn.
my favorite, my number one, Snickers.
Mhm.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
Snickers.
Snickers are good.
Now the number one hated one is not far off from that. It's the Three Musketeers.
Oh, I hate Three Musketeers.
If you give
I don't like
kids
those
Three
either.
Musketeers, you are an a-hole
Yes, but
because this is chocolate and just
This
nougat.
coming from your daughter who loves Three Musketeers.
Yeah,
But
I
would-
have full-size
That's because-
Musketeers for
that's
Halloween.
because God loved me and gave me somebody to
would you
grab away.
rather get the black and orange peanut butter awful candies or a Three
Well,
Musketeer bar?
maybe neither one. But if the thing is if you're going to go to buy Snickers, or you're going to buy candy bars, right? You know, Mars brand, which is Musketeers and Milky Ways. Don't just buy the crappy ones. It's the same price to get good ones.
You know those are going to
Some
be the
caramel,
ones
some
that's
nuts.
left over at the very
It
end.
always is.
Yep.
Mhm.
So go trick or treating early, get the good stuff.
Yep.
And don't buy any Palmer's chocolates. stuff.
Oh,
Palmer's is not really chocolate. It's actually a confectionery chocolate. It's not the same thing.
no.
What's your favorite,
It's
Elisa?
Taffy, Levy Taffy.
What's your favorite, Jamie?
My favorite, Butterfinger.
Butterfinger.
Josh?
He already told
Hershey's-
us.
Hershey's bars.
Hershey bars.
Yeah. Snickers. I would say honorable mentions. Butterfingers are good. Kit Kats are good. Reese's are
What
good.
was yours, Terry?
The Twixes.
Ooh,
Twixes are good.
I
Um,
love Twixes.
Something else I really love. Lemon heads, little boxes of lemon heads,
Oh yeah.
and also the licorice things. I'm a
Oh.
sucker for those,
Oh,
those little
little
individual-
Twizzlers.
Yeah,
But
See,
see,
you pull apart.
next to those orange and black, though, I also hated the pixie sticks.
I
Oh,
don't
I
hate
had
the
a
Pixie
Pixie
there.
sticks. If those broke open and snapped in your in your trick or treat bucket,
Sticky.
you had powder sticky everywhere.
Gross.
Another interesting thing that we've seen in this neighborhood, we used to, my in-laws' neighborhood, there was one house that used to give out like little bags of Doritos.
We
or-
get a little bag of chips and a little thing of Capri Suns, and it was
Aw.
awesome.
like
That's cool.
And
That's a
it
great
was
idea.
perfect because it was like halfway through, and my daughter would be like, "I'm so thirsty." I'm like, "Here, drink your Capri Sun."
And then the house next door would give out
the big
Kellogg's. Oh no,
no, they give out the big long licorice ropes like this.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that was a
Nice.
house.
my
of
old
those.
neighborhood did
And
that.
then next door to them, they gave out the Kellogg's brand fruit snacks.
Yeah, the
Nice.
big bags of Kellogg fruit snacks. And
Dang,
anyways,
I need to go trick or
Oh,
treat.
yeah.
this
There.
neighborhood is legit.
my neighborhood now, my neighbor would give out the full size sodas,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would give out the full size candy bars,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would just go down. Like someone would give licorice ropes, and
Oh, that's cool.
oh my gosh,
So well, we're doing a soda bar. our
so
backyard.
yummy.
Awesome.
So, what is the strangest experience you had trick or treating?
For me, I would say, well, I don't know if I call it strange, but the year that I broke my knee when I was 8.
Trick or treating?
No,
Oh.
I broke it in September in a bike accident, and I was a football player on crutches. And my mom I had to cast all the way up to my leg, all the way up to around my crotch because I bent my knee. And my mom put a garbage bag over it, and I went around on crutches, and it was snowy and slippery. And so on crutches and one leg. And
You were being a pirate that year, so you only had one
I
eye.
was a football player. No, honestly, I don't remember anything weird.
Anybody else have
Anybody
anything
else?
weird?
No,
I never experienced.
No.
Okay, but I have a question. Do you have anything weird?
I do.
Okay.
So I used to live, growing up, I lived by arguably the number one aerospace center in the country where people would learn to be pilots and other aerospace stuff.
Cocoa Beach?
North Dakota,
Oh, no.
University of North Dakota.
All right.
And so we would get students from all over the world. So this one year we knocked on this door and we got a couple Asian students there, right? So we're like trick or treat, and they look at us like, "What's trick or treat?" So we had to explain to them what trick or treating was, and that's when I got money.
Oh.
But it wasn't U.S. currency, so it was interesting. It was weird because like as a kid, right? You're like, everybody knows what Halloween is and trick or treating. And so to do that was definitely odd.
Nowadays, you just give out ammunition. If you're generous.
What were you going to say?
So what was your guys' favorite Halloween costume growing up that you dressed up as? What was your favorite?
I seem to remember this being a Facebook question.
Oh, yes,
What?
it was.
Oh yeah, I did post that.
Yes.
But I'm asking you guys.
So the only one I can actually remember dressing up as was a Transformer. I'm pretty sure that was Optimus Prime.
Like the plastic garbage bag with
Oh,
the print and
yes, the classic,
plastic mask.
plastic garbage
With
bag
the
with the
elastic
print
band.
and the elastic band and the plastic face mask that you could barely breathe out of. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know I went trick or treating many years, but that's about the only one I can remember. Because for the most part, I had to laugh when I saw that question because most of the times trick or treating growing up, it was here's my costume, underneath my parka, underneath my hat, underneath my gloves, and my snow pants. So, like, what are you dressed up? I'm the Michelin Man.
Elisa, what about you?
Oh, man. I don't know. I don't know if this was my favorite or not, but it was the most convenient. So me and my friend, we dressed up like babies or like toddlers. So we wore like the onesie pajamas. So because we wore the onesie pajamas, we were super warm, right? And then we just had our hair in pigtails and we had our pillows like as part of our decoration, right? But then you use your pillowcases to get all of your candy. But it was super convenient because we were so warm and it was snowing that year. So
Smart,
we
yeah.
were just super toasty in our little
Nice.
onesies. But I don't remember. I
A
was
favorite?
never really like, if I were to dress up now, I would be a lot of like scary things, right? And I would go all out. But as a kid, all we had were the plastic bag, costumes or like ones that your parents made.
Right.
So we didn't have a lot of ones to pick from.
Jamie, how about you?
A unicorn. So I was living in Alaska at the time. And it was cold, obviously, but I wore, stop it, Raymond. But I wore a white leotard and white leggings. And then I had like these silver glove things that came up to here and had like the fake fur around them
Uh-huh.
on each hand. And then the collar one, and then the ones down at my feet. And then I had like this fluffy mane with roses in it
Oh,
and a
cool.
horn and then a tail. It was cold trick-or-treating that year, but I wasn't going to cover it up with snow pants and coat. And
I'm guessing that was in Alaska too, wasn't
that
it?
was in Alaska.
Yeah. Brrr.
Yeah.
Terry, how about you?
I was a die.
Princess Di?
No, it was just a die. Like instead of dice,
Oh,
a
okay.
single
It's a
die
dice.
is a die.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had gotten a new washer, dryer, dishwasher. I don't know what it was, but we had it in an appliance box. and we covered it with white paper, and then we cut out black dots. My head was number 1. And then I climbed up in the box, put my arms out the side, and then I like parted my head down the middle and like dyed half of it black and half of it white, and then I had a black leotard on. I was a dye.
That's awesome.
Cute.
I love it.
That's like inventive and creative.
It really is.
So my favorite one goes similar to this. And my older brother, I love my brother. He's kind of a personal hero to all my life anyway. He was a teenager, probably 18 or so. I was young, and he made out of some sort of big boxes. He actually constructed a race car where it was a lot of tape involved, a lot of, shaping it, and had round wheels and everything, but it was all out of cardboard. And then he painted it blue, put like numbers on it, made this really cool little race car, and then my head stuck out the top, and then my arms stuck out the sides, and I really couldn't hold my treat bag very well. My pillowcase.
Put it in the trunk.
But it was the coolest thing. And then I wore like my dad's motorcycle helmet. And it was
that's cool.
It was really cool.
Awesome.
So you were Lightning McQueen before Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
You even knew it.
You have a good costume when you're doing the Halloween parade around the school, and people are stopping you asking, "Hey, can I take your picture?"
I was
That's
just going to get to
awesome.
this.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So a friend of mine is a principal at a school, and he posted a couple years ago what all of the staff decided to do. And basically they took all those big boxes and then wrapped them all in pink wrapping paper, put cellophane in the front, put a little Mattel thing up on the top, and they were all Barbies. They were all Barbie characters in the box.
He was
That's so cute.
Ken. He was Malibu
It was
Ken.
Malibu Ken.
So he was in his
Nice.
swimsuit and had a towel and inside the box, and then you had like all the different
That's
Barbies.
awesome.
And then on the inside of this box, because it's a big fully enclosed box, you have little handles that you put inside. So I was like,
No, it was her very last time in 6th grade for the very last Halloween parade.
so she would have been about 12 or maybe 11 and a half.
No.
Anyways, so we did that for her and we built that.
For our daughter, we made her a ballerina Barbie for Halloween.
It was
She won
coolest
so many
costume.
costume contests that year. It was
oh
awesome.
my goodness.
In fact, we even went to a Quick Wits play, an improv place, and they said, bring your costumes. So we took her in her costume. They pulled her up on the stage and just to talk about how
Oh,
cool
that's
she
so
was.
cute.
That's awesome.
But-
That was probably one of the best ones we ever did for her.
Oh, I love it.
So, anyway, we've jawed your ear off. I hope you guys have a fun and safe and happy Halloween. If you like spooky stuff and you haven't listened to the rest of our episodes, go back and check them out. Tell your friends about us. Tell your family. Tell your coworkers. In fact, maybe a great way to celebrate Halloween is just to stay home, hand out candy,
And
and
listen to our
binge
podcast.
listen. And just pick the scary ones. I mean, we can skip a couple of them.
We have scary ones.
Well, to find the scary
But the
ones, you got to
ghosty
listen
ones.
to all of them.
Yes, just
You
listen.
do.
Just
You
listen
do.
to all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just chuckle along when we keep pronouncing like Ningen, Ningen. I don't know. That one wasn't a very scary show.
No.
We do try.
We
We
do-
try.
We do the
we
best
just
we
try
can.
to keep it entertaining, and that's what
Yeah.
it's about. But you can find us on social media. Josh, what's our Facebook page?
Cold Spot Paranormal Research.
We also have another page, Jamie. What's the other Facebook page?
Paranormal Peeps podcast.
Hopefully you guys can spell that one, because if you can't, then how did you find it? How are you listening to this? We're also on Instagram, Terry.
Cold spot _ paranormal _ research.
Send us messages. Tell us about your favorite Halloween traditions. Send us pictures. If it's appropriate, we might post it.
Absolutely.
But we appreciate you, our listeners. So happy, safe, and a merry Halloween. And
Stay ghosty, my peeps.
this is Halloween. This is Halloween. Halloween.
See something strange. Come with us and you will see. This our town of Halloween.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot _ paranormal _ research.